Now we'll move on to the panel, and we have 4 speakers tonight, as you see up here. First is Louisa Edgerly, and Louisa currently works as a union organizer for SEIU 925, that's Service Employees International Union, and she works on campaigns in higher education. And Louisa helped organize her fellow non-tenured track colleagues at Seattle University, and she says she's now a recovering academic who is learning to be a practitioner of the many ideas and theories she used to study. Louisa.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for inviting me tonight. This is really exciting to get to talk about something I love to do and that I really care about. I thought I would start with a little bit of background on the higher education workforce and how it has been transformed in roughly the last 30 years. Give a little bit of my own brief history of involvement in this struggle, and talk a little bit about the, I think, really bright future of higher education organizing. So faculty, professors, people think of these as really good jobs, and for a few folks they still are. There are still a few people doing pretty well in academia, but in fact, about 30 years ago, 75% of higher education faculty were what's called tenure track. They were secure jobs, basically lifetime jobs if you wanted to keep doing the work. They had protection, they had all kinds of due process and shared governance in their workplace. Over the last 30 years, the proportion has completely reversed, and today, nationally, 75% of the higher education instructional workforce are non-tenure track. This is a little jargony higher ed stuff, but non-tenure track can mean anything from, say, a 5-year contract that may be renewable, to a 1-year contract that may be renewable, to a 1-year contract that's not renewable, to a quarterly or semester contract, which is maybe renewable. And in fact, at this point, about 50% of that 75% of the workforce that is non-tenure track, 50% of them are part-time, working quarter to quarter or semester to semester. One scholar of labor who studies this said that the most analogous situation to this was that of longshoremen who have to show up each day to look for work. And many of these part-time adjuncts, we mostly call them, have to work at multiple different institutions in order to make ends meet. Because, God forbid you go over 50% FTE, you're suddenly eligible for benefits. So it has become increasingly in the employer's interest not to hire you enough to have to give you benefits. I think over the course of my career as an adjunct, I received maybe a dozen letters from my various employees informing me that once again that quarter I was not eligible for benefits, in case I wasn't clear about that. So I was not eligible. In fact, this contingent workforce now teaches the majority of classes on campuses, along with graduate student employees, and really does the vast bulk of the work of educating young people today. The remaining 25% of lucky tenured faculty tend to retire and be replaced by 2 or 3 contingent faculty positions. So this process has been going on for about 30 years to reach the point that we're at now. The AFT reports, the American Federation of Teachers, which is a union that does represent quite a few faculty in higher education, they report that underrepresented racial and ethnic groups tend in a higher proportion to be contingent in their employment. There's about a 10.4% nationwide number of faculty who are from underrepresented groups. 75% of these positions are contingent. very little security, frequently no benefits or access to professional development. And according to a survey done by the Coalition on the Academic Workforce, 80% of the part-time faculty have been part-time faculty for 3 or more years. Half of them have been part-time for 6 or more years, really doing away with the myth that adjunct faculty are mostly just professionals who do this for fun, teach a class here and there. That might have been the case in the 1960s or the 1970s, but today, 3/4 of these part-time adjuncts report they are actively seeking full-time work. So the other full-time job that they have, in addition to their teaching at multiple institutions, is looking for a full-time job every year. And that they would accept a full-time position if it were offered at their current institution. And I've heard faculty who still believe, full-time tenured faculty, who still believe that adjuncts want to be adjuncts. That they don't want full-time work, they wouldn't take it if it were offered. So that myth continues, and it really belies the reality of the situation. So that's kind of where we are, which might explain why professors are getting really riled up. They're not known for being super fired up in many cases, but it's starting to happen. I myself entered graduate school thinking, hey, this is great, I'm going to go and do research, it's going to be really fun. And I earned my PhD in 2010 at the University of Washington, right after a little thing called the economic collapse. And I spent the next 5 years working as an adjunct faculty member at both the University of Washington and also at Seattle University, which is where I got involved. And I have to admit, when I was in grad school, we had a great union. Members of UAW 4121. The union had just formed when I started grad school. We were in the first contract. I had health benefits. I had a contract. I had a clear idea of what my work expectations were. I had due process and a grievance system. And then I graduated and life got worse. This is pretty much the only field you can graduate with an advanced degree and things get worse. Suddenly I had no protection. I had no job security, I had no benefits, I had no access to any of those things because there are no tenure track jobs out there anymore. And those that exist, in fact last year, 61% of the available tenure track jobs went to men. Even though women are earning as many PhDs at this point as men are. So as the fields narrow, as the available positions narrow, it becomes increasingly difficult for everyone. So at Seattle University, the non-tenure track faculty began to organize. I got involved because I was really at the end of my rope. And it was a fantastic ride. We got to our election, and Seattle U, as you may know, is a Jesuit private institution. And once our election was held, they appealed our right to form a union, and that process of appeals to the National Labor Relations Board has lasted coming up on the 2-year anniversary of our election without our ballots being counted. So yeah, that has been very discouraging, but the faculty there continue to organize. I got a different job. And now I'm working on higher education campaigns with 925, still moving forward with SU, working on organizing the faculty at the University of Washington who have expressed great interest in forming a union. So there's a strong base of support, and that campaign is moving forward. That's a lot of fun. My former committee members don't necessarily agree with that idea, but they already signed my diploma, so it's safe. Yeah, so that has been a really exciting experience. I've been getting to work with a lot of amazing other former adjuncts, or as we sometimes call ourselves, the radjunks. So we're the radical adjuncts who got the heck out of academia And they're a treat to work with. It's been a really fun time. And it's been really exciting to see faculty starting to come together. I've learned about organizations like the New Faculty Majority. They have a great website. They provide a ton of connections and sort of interlinks between adjuncts and non-tenure track folks who are organizing all over the country in a really difficult environment. And I think that the future of higher education organizing looks really bright. I see I have 35 seconds left. People are really starting to realize that the union premium is a real thing. Faculty at unionized campuses get higher salaries. They get better access to benefits, both tenure and non-tenure track faculty. They get retirement benefits. The numbers of women in higher ranking positions, higher faculty rank at union schools, surpass those of non-unionized schools. Women distinctly benefit from the protections built into contracts and the ways in which promotion is made more transparent. The requirements for promotion are made more transparent rather than happening behind closed doors or through favoritism. So there are a number of ways in which organizing helps women in higher education tremendously. And there are some really interesting new models developing in right-to-work states like North Carolina, finding ways to organize even where public institutions don't have the right to collective bargaining anymore. So the future is looking bright, and it's a really good time to get involved. Thank you.